Hey there, Blue.
What's up, bro?
How you doing?
Good, good.
Yeah, before we get started, I want to remind everybody about Boston's forum. Search Boston Loyd on google.com. You'll find his forum. It's exceptionally useful. Blue, I get surprised all the time that we have subscribers that are not signed up there, and they send me DMs all the time asking about questions that are on that forum. So I just support our buddy Boston. It's one of his main sources of income, and he adds a lot of value to people for that. How you doing, Blue? What's new with you, brother?
Same thing, man. Every day.
Groundhog Day. How's your son?
Good, man. Good. Growing. I mean, it's crazy. He's in his walker now, and so he's, it's crazy. He's already like running around the house in his walker.
Bro, let me show you something, actually. I wanted to show you this. So, not this, but look at this. Have you ever seen this cool device? For before the walker, obviously. Now you're past it. But before you use a walker, this device, kids can it looks like they're jumping, but they can actually stand on their tiptoes. And I tried it. My daughter's been using it for about a week, and she improved so much with her head, like managing her head, and also now managing her back, like so rapidly. I think this device is awesome.
Yeah. The little jumpers. We started off with that Finding Nemo looking one. You've probably seen it at the store.
I don't know what Finding Nemo is.
It's a Disney cartoon. It's a bouncer and has all these little cartoon things. But he loved the bouncer, and then we put him in the walker, and now he's already moving around the house. He's loving it. It's really crazy.
That's so we got a walker too 2 days ago, but she's just sitting in it, like she's not moving around yet. How you doing, Armon? What's new with you?
He'll be running
around.
What's up,
guys?
He doesn't have children's stories to converse with us. It's just me and Blue and Boston. Huh? You got to join the club soon. Oh, you do have. I got two kids. Yeah, that's true. They spend part of the time with the mother, part of the time with you.
No, my daughter, she's about to be 7. We split custody. That's with just one of the ongoing? 10 girls I was dating. What's that?
Is there custody?
That's not going.
Okay.
Yeah. It's still. Dude, that custody's been going on for 7 years, dude.
It's so hard as a man to get custody of your child in America. Actually, by the way, I'll tell you something personal.
No matter what the woman does.
Yeah. I'll tell you something personal, actually. That's how I ended up in Dubai as a child. My father and mother, my father was a PhD student in America, and I was like 2 years old. They started having arguments, and so my mother got full custody. And my father he told me when I was a child, he's like, I would have stayed, but I wanted 50% custody, and they wouldn't give it to him. They were giving him visitation and stuff like that. So one day during a visitation, he just took me, drove to the airport, drove to Switzerland, and went to Dubai. He said the whole drive to the airport, I was shaking. He said, I called my friends for somebody to drive me to help. Everybody refused. Nobody wanted to get involved because they were scared, because it was, stealing the baby. But that's what happened. And I grew up in Dubai by myself with my father, without my mother, because of that.
Wow. When I was, they took my passport away when I first started custody court, because I never been to Iran. They're like, they paint me as like some terrorist. I was going to take my daughter to. I was like, how's she going to get there? This is not like 20 years ago. You can just like jump on a plane. And then it's
probably my father son. And those people that caused this problem for you. Those guys were like, fuck this. I'm not taking partial ownership. I'm going. But anyway, so it's a very difficult thing. I can only imagine, my whole childhood, I was also like torn emotionally between my father and mother, because my father raised me, and he was very kind and giving to me when I was a child. But at the other side, my mother sees my father as the devil, like he stole you from me or whatever. So my whole childhood, I was trying to balance who's the good guy here. I can't tell. You know what I mean? But anyway, moving from this slide, hey, let me show you guys something else, not to be too depressing about childhood subjects. So I wanted to show you guys some interesting news articles. Apparently in New Zealand now, it's the second country in the world that now allows you, government sanctioned, even though possessing illicit drugs are not legal, you can test the drugs. So now they have they started with this company called Know Your Stuff NZ, and now they've enacted into law for 1 year that anybody can test illegal drugs to see what they have. A lot of them were testing MDMA, finding out it had these cathinones in it, which are related to the Yemeni plant, the qat, which it's a kind of stimulant, sometimes known as bath salts, which are in some compounds. Anyway, they said a lot of the tested substances were not real. You know, in the US, you can't test this. So right now in California, a lot of people keep dying from fentanyl in Coke. Like, you would never expect that somebody put fentanyl in Coke. Imagine a guy with no opiate tolerance. You know what I mean? Like,
they put in everything. I saw some documentary recently. I forgot what state it was, but it was some nonprofit organization, and they were giving out free drugs. So they would order from the dark web. They would test it and see the purity and all that. And they would like set up on, it was up north somewhere, and they would set up and they would give out heroin, crack. It would be labeled whatever it was. And you would get your like daily dose, and the police didn't care just because they had too much other stuff going on. And so look it up. I forgot what state.
I think in Canada they had that.
It could have been Canada. It could have been Canada.
The heroin, right? Specifically.
It was everything. Yeah.
It's really interesting because in LA, I've tried Coke here before when I first came to LA. And I've also tried Coke in England, which was even worse. Bro, there's no way that stuff is 50% Coke. Not even. There's no way. It's all kinds of other stuff. Every time we tried, I was never a Coke addict, but like I tried a couple times socially in like Hollywood, stuff like that. It's always different. It's a different drug. You can feel it. It's a different mixture of things. It's hectic. I mean, you can't trust that stuff at all. You guys have never tried it.
I never got it. I never liked
Bleu has never tried Coke before. Bleu was a PG-13 character. No, but this is the thing. Look, when we were young, we thought Coke as this like horrible drug that's so powerful and like, you know, because we were the children of the 80s people or the 70s people. But in the 70s and the 80s in the beginning, they used to think of Coke as an innocuous drug like marijuana. They didn't think of it as a big deal. Then when I finally tried it, I was like, that's what all the fuss was about? This is nothing. You know, it wasn't that impressive to me.
In the 90s, a lot of bodybuilders would use it on their prep.
I heard Craig Titus was using it the whole time during the preps. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So the owner of Painless Pumps died today. Palumbo, or before yesterday, Palumbo and those guys reviewed his death again. They're also saying that maybe it could be something unexpected, like foul play or something like that. But
I knew him well. I knew him really well. I mean, I'm not going to talk too much about it, but we haven't. I talked to you, Leo, a couple of days ago about some stuff, but he had a lot going on, and he sent me. He told me these 3 masked men tried to kill him because I was helping him run Painless and stuff like that, like market, because I would have my certain clients on certain site enhancement, and he did like do Superior for 2 weeks. So I had all these people messaging me thinking it was my company, like mad, cussing me. I was like, this isn't my company. I don't know where he's at either. Mm. And he went MIA and he messaged me. He was like, hey, I was in the hospital. These 3 masked men broke in my house and tried to kill me. And then I was like, what? And they sent me this video with blood all over his apartment. And I don't know if it was true or not. I mean, who knows? But yeah, it was,
Florida is it's interesting how in bodybuilding though, a lot of people get kidnapped by ninjas and stuff like that. But Florida is dangerous. So there's this channel I mentioned on the podcast I did with Derek recently called Trap Lore Ross, where this British guy tells you all of like what's really happening between rappers in the US. So I thought that these young kids now, they're all like skinny, they look a bit effeminate, they're all on drugs. I thought they weren't violent. Apparently the rappers today and like Chicago and Florida are the most violent they've ever been, like Jacksonville, Florida, Chicago, and people do still commit crazy crimes. I didn't think it was true because I thought with the advent of cameras everywhere and cell phones, like in LA, nobody does that stuff. People, they used to, that's called flocking, when they go into your house with guns and take all your shit, they call it flocking. They used to do that a lot in LA, but they raised the penalty for it so high. It's like similar to kidnapping, like a very serious thing. And also people in LA are somewhat scared about it because of cameras, whereas in other places they seem not afraid at all. People living for the short term. I thought crime would eventually, like violent crime.
They don't fight though. They just use guns. I mean, there used to be a lot more fighting. No one fights anymore.
They don't fight. Yeah, they think they're in Counter-Strike or something like that. They call their enemies ops, and they have like extended clips, and they're like in a Counter-Strike game in their minds. It's pretty crazy. Yeah.
And they're wearing dresses on top of it, talking crazy to each other, wearing dresses and carrying purses.
Nail polish.
Yeah.
Literally nail polish. Yeah. Look at this interesting thing as well. Wait, I want to get... So, Madonna apparently put a picture of her nipple on Instagram and got very angry that Instagram removed it. So she said that, the belief that the female nipple is sexual is similar to the long-standing lies told about Thanksgiving and the Pilgrims. So then, interestingly, I thought this article was interesting because just before that, I don't follow this new stuff that much, but I came across this one. So this this man, he used to be called Ellen Page. I don't know if you guys have seen her, right? This actress, you guys know her, right? She's been in like a bunch of famous things. I didn't really know this.
Yeah.
She recently transitioned into a man, but this was the interesting part, right? So she was originally a female. Now, once she got the breast reduction, she was able to post a picture about it. So that becomes interesting now. So it's like once you transition, the nipple is no longer like sacred or something. What do you guys think?
She was in that movie. Did you see that movie Hard Candy? She was in it.
No.
Yeah, that was a really good movie, actually.
You got that? You saw? Yeah, that's a crazy. You got to watch that movie. That's a crazy movie.
It's just interesting. Like, I feel like it's somewhat easier for men to transition to women than the reverse. Like, I don't know if this is true or not, but I was talking to my wife about it. I was like, it's more something, because you oftentimes when a woman this is not always true though, honestly. I've seen some female transitions where they have like a very thick beard and they look quite masculine.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't be able to tell.
The women that transition, I see a bunch on TikTok now. I just got on TikTok like a month ago. And there's a bunch and you can't tell they look like men.
Right. And then it makes you wonder when you see a bodybuilder that's on a lot, but his beard doesn't connect. You're like, but how did these women get the full beard going? It's pretty random. So
they do the beard transplants and all that. I think they go all the way with everything. They did the transplant on the beard too.
I honestly want the beard transplant. I don't want a hair transplant. I want a beard transplant. I keep having to cut my beard here for my whole life, all the time. There's hair here. Why the hell is it here? It should be here. So I'm like, I just don't want to shave it all the time. They could remove it, but whatever. I tried to laser it twice, and it just came right back.
Yeah, well, laser it doesn't. It seemed to work well. I do it on my back and.
Did it work on your back?
I have to do it like every 3 months to keep it thin. And then when I was taking all my gear, when I was bodybuilding, I had to do it like every 6 weeks. But it's still, my hair is super thick though. But yeah, it doesn't seem to work well on the beard.
Not at all. It just, I think it got slightly lighter, the hairs, but they only lasted for like a few months like that, and then they got thick again. You can't even tell I did it. Boston, you hear us?
Yep, I hear you.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
You look different. What's with your hair changing?
I shaved.
Oh, that's what it is. You had that thick black beard that looked painted. Hey, update us. What's going on with the supplement thing? So I didn't follow Boston's profile on Instagram for a few days, and then I'm just hanging out on YouTube, and I see Xavier Willis posted a video. So I love his video, so I watched the beginning of the video, and then I realized it's about Boston, and people are attacking Boston, claiming that he's dishonest. Thank God, I kept watching the video, and I realized Xavier was defending Boston. We have to give him a shout out. Xavier's a really good guy. I texted him afterwards. But what was going on? And
so like I wanted Pete. Is it rubbish or rubish? How do you spell it?
Rubish. You said rubbish. I heard you.
He said he had really good results with a kidney product. So I was like, well, I want to try it. Shit. So he gave me the guy's information. The guy texted me. I ended up sending him payment for 4 bottles on Venmo, and he sends me the product to use. I hadn't even started yet. Right when it got in the mail, I started it. And I sent him an email saying, hey, man, the package came fast. Thank you. I said, I just got my blood work back. My creatinine dropped from so-and-so and so-and-so. I'm super pumped right now. And, and basically he saw me post the HD Muscle promotion saying, this is the only thing I used for 4 weeks. And this is the only variable that I added to my supplement program, and my numbers are down. And this idiot thought I was affiliated with him or whatever, and thought that I was using his product results for another company, which is so stupid. I would never do that. So I ended up calling him out, and then he apologized, but it didn't even have to get to that, Leo. I texted the guy exactly what happened. And then 2 of our mutual friends, Pete Rubbish and my buddy Jason, texted him, and he didn't respond to any of us. So I had to make that video. And then once I made the video, he responded on there saying it was a misunderstanding and all this stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because it just, I didn't like to hear. What really upset me, honestly, Boston, was that during the Xavier thing, suddenly Phil Viz's repost. I'm like, what does Phil Viz have to do with this? Guy never stops.
Phil Viz reposted it. And somebody told me that Phil Viz might have been in on it. I have no proof of that, but that may have been in on it because him and the owner of that company are friends.
You know how much Phil Viz tried to fuck people over with us. Like he texts me like, can you please post about this thing to screw over Matt Jansen? The guy, we have a big listening base. Some of them know Matt Jansen. I want Matt Jansen to know Phil Viz is trying his hardest to fuck you. And the only reason he hasn't fucked you is because me and Boston have ethics. We will not do that kind of shit. And we don't trust that snake. But just so you know, Matt Jansen, this guy hates you more than anyone I think I know. And he goes out of his way to hurt you. And he probably does the same thing to you, Boston.
Supposedly they made up and he called Matt supposedly and they squashed it. But I guarantee you Phil talks shit behind his back.
I don't believe him. Exactly. Hey, I wanted to ask you guys something. So we didn't talk about what happened with Redcon. We haven't had a podcast since then, I think, right? So I used to call this company Deadcon 2. I just used to call it that because 2 bodybuilders died within like 3 years that were sponsored by them. Then I just said it's really unusual for a company to have 2 guys die in 2 years. But now there's 3 people, I believe, who died in 3 or 4 years, right?
From Redcon?
Yeah, 3, right? There's 3 people who died.
Who? It's Luke Sandow?
Dallas, and then recently George Peterson.
Oh, was George Peterson Redcon too? Wow.
I believe so. Am I wrong, guys?
You might be right.
Pretty sure 3 people died. So I'm like, has there ever been a company in bodybuilding history that 3 people died within 5 years? I don't know if that's true. And if it's not, you just sense like, is there something up with Redcon? Like, do they not pay attention to the athletes? Do they pick a certain kind of athlete? Do they not care? But then this thing that strikes me about Redcon is I saw that they removed support from the Arnold because of their ethics. They have strong ethics about patriotism and their brand is a lot of the time about patriotism. But then the CEO goes, after doing a criminal act with people he knows intentionally, he then goes and decides to become a cooperating government witness and testify against anyone. By the way, when you cooperate, it's a blanket statement. You have to admit all your faults, and whoever they want you to testify, you have to go. It doesn't matter if it's your friend or not. If you refuse one of them, it's all gone away, the deal. So he basically agreed to literally rat on whoever they ask him to.
For less time, right?
Yeah, of course. He should do almost no time. It should be almost none now.
You think he'll get away with nothing, really?
Almost. Well, Sammy Gravano killed...
How about that? But didn't he violate the fucking probation by going on the boat?
He's not on probation yet, but it's going to look really bad in court. Yes, absolutely. It looks so bad in court. If they heard about it, the judge would be annoyed.
The day after.
I know. He must have gotten upset, got drunk that night, and been on the...
Dude, if he doesn't get any time at all, you'll know that he was singing like the birds.
He's certainly going to get low amount of time. You don't become a cooperating... If he was a violent criminal, he'd still get low amount of time.
Who's he cooperating against? Because I heard him and PJ were going to fight it.
No, originally they were supposed to fight it, is what I heard too. But I think he dipped out on his own. Armon and Blue, have you guys heard about this too?
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
It's pretty crazy that in bodybuilding, people, I would never buy a Redcon supplement again in my life. Never. If the CEO represents snitching, that's not what I represent. You know what I mean?
Dude, he's going to lose a lot of business for that because, now we're talking about it. Johnny Bravo talked about it.
Johnny's the one who sent me all the details. Yeah, exactly.
Johnny has good connections with the court system somehow. He knows all the good shit.
Exactly. I don't know how they come back from it. Well, there's a few more things in the news. Vic Richards is very upset at Palumbo, by the way. He posted a picture.
Vic Richards did it on purpose, man.
Vic is hectic, I know, but I'm just pointing. The funny thing about it is that Vic posted a picture of an ear with snakes going into it. He said these devils are whispering in your ears, but it happens to be snakes. I was like, I don't know if he knows the joke. And then there's a few more things going on.
Supposedly he faked his death before, Leo.
Yeah, I when you watch his interviews, he comes across as a 100% con man liar. Yeah. Like there's nothing he says seems to be true. Like he just nothing. But there's more things. So I wanted to ask you guys something. Have any of you worked with Milos directly? Not Boston, but other guys. So I want to ask you guys what do you think Milos can do with Regan? Because a lot of talk has been about how he did well recently. Do you think he can grow Regan to become competitive in men's open? And if not, why has he never grown anyone before? For example, the Matt Jansen, this is what I want to talk about also. Remember the Matt Jansen, Brett Wilkins 2-year transformation picture? That transformation picture I thought was isolated. Like there's Dallas, Nick, and then there's him. But then there's this other guy just came out called Justin Shire. Justin Shire also has a 2-year transformation.
Crazy good physique.
Crazy transformation as well within 2 years too.
Bleu also have a client in that class. Bleu has a client and I have a client in the same class.
Oh, really?
At Nationals.
So why do you guys think that Milos can develop athletes over time, aside from getting them in condition? Because I've never seen him.
I know Blue will have an opinion on this, but I personally don't, because Milos is crazy volume in the gym, and it's just overuse of crazy insulin pre and post, and it's like it's obsessive a little bit, like 20 pre, 20 post twice a day training, and with like giant sets. And like you said, man, I don't see his clients putting on muscle.
Yeah, no, he doesn't grow anybody. And the people that he peaks on stage, me and Bostin have talked about this quite a few times. Like I tell everybody, do your research. It's maybe 1 out of 20 guys that peak. You know, some of these guys go to the hospital. Some of them just look horrible. I mean,
some of my clients paid him as a coach before they hired me, and he took their money up front for like 6 months or a year and barely ever gave back to him, never changed the program, didn't pay him any attention. So his normal guys don't get any attention. I don't know if you've heard that either, but everyone that's worked with Milos that wasn't a pro has nothing but bad to say. I mean, they say the guy doesn't respond to emails. He just sends them one program and doesn't do his job.
Well, even his pros end up leaving him. I mean, look at High T Day, guys that he's worked with. I mean, he just ruined their physiques.
Well, Hidetada is really the one, Blue. Let's stay on that for a second. If you look at Hidetada, guys, Hidetada Yamagishi, what do you see happen over time? His arms got smaller. His appendages got smaller, I believe, from the insulin resistance. It's sort of like Palumbo at the end of his time, but Hidetada didn't have a gut. But his arms kept getting smaller, and I think it's from the insulin resistance of this crazy just banging insulin all the time.
His insulin protocols are insane.
He's trying to fill up people as much as they can be filled up constantly. That's going to cause insulin resistance over time, right?
You know, Blue, he worked with that Ryan Crowley kid that I fucking troll. He did 3 of the shows. He did nationals, USAs, and then he did some show in another country, I think, to try to go pro. Literally, the guy was bragging he was 305 on stage. He looked like fucking shit. You've seen me troll him. He calls himself the Big Rig.
That's what I'm talking about. Milos, the reason people hire him is because he was a legend as a bodybuilder. But as a coach, do some digging, do the research. You'll end up finding out that, he nails it about 1 out of 100 times, but
I see him, like, you're right. He doesn't actually nail it with the pros in all competitions, but he did right now. He did a great job. I feel like of all the people that should have went with Milos, wouldn't Regan? I mean, he's not in such bad condition. His main issue is also muscle, right?
Yeah, no, Regan's
size.
Like 6 foot tall. He needs more size.
You guys think he has 20-inch arms?
Pull up an arm.
I've never seen him in person.
I got
probably. Yeah, I mean, he's not a small guy, and
you think so? But out of his whole body, the arms are the small. Wait, we have a caller just called in. Blue, you want to guide the discussion?
Yeah.
Hey, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, nice to speak with you. I don't know that much about the call, and Blue usually organizes it. Just for the audience to know, sometimes we have listeners call in that have had experiences with coaches that may be interesting, and Blue sort of manages that for us. So this is our first caller today. I believe we have 2 today.
Yeah, basically, I get a ton of people that contact me, about fake coaches and bad experiences. Many people contact Bostin as well. And, me and Bostin will usually coordinate, with, this or that guy, and I'll do a screening call with them to make sure to, try my best to verify that everything is legitimate. And this gentleman here, don't say your name. I don't coach you. We've only talked once. You shared your story. Go ahead and, share it here. Tell as much as you'd like.
All right. So my story is about Matt Jansen. I hired him this past summer, mid-June, I believe. Yeah, it was mid-June. I did a 6-month paid in full with the training program. To kind of keep it brief, I don't believe his coaching is worth the dollar amount. It's very subpar for what he's charging. I knew within 2 months of my paid in full that I wasn't going to use him again. He's very, very responsive in the beginning before we started working together, and then it kind of just tailed off from there. But since I paid for it 6 months, I just figured I'd finish it out, see what happens, and then just find a new coach from there. Well, 4 months in, I actually ended up in the ER with heart issues. I had an EKG done, a blood clot test done, and an X-ray. It all came back negative. The EKG, the doctor did say, isn't normal for someone my age. It's normal for like an 80-year-old.
You had tachycardia.
I don't know exactly what he said it was.
Did he mention your ejection fraction? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was just going to ask if he mentioned your ejection fraction or something like that. Do you recall those words?
My injection what?
Ejection fraction of your heart. Have you ever heard that before?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Please continue.
Yeah. So he said, like I said, it's normal for like an 80-year-old, not necessarily my age, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's anything wrong. That's why we did a few more tests. It turned out my heart was okay according to those tests. We didn't do any additionals because there's no damage and no blood clots. But he said some of the chest and the tightness and pain that I was feeling in my chest could have been caused by some inflammation around my heart. And he said that could be started or basically from stress and the level of steroids that I was using.
Was this during COVID?
It was, September. This past September.
The thing is, I never developed what's called angina, which is like heart-related chest pain, except once. And I've never had it my whole life, except after I got COVID. Not even after the vaccine, but after I got COVID, after the vaccine, I started to get chest pain, and my heart rate started, I watched it carefully, it started to elevate extremely high in the gym. So just so you know, I mean, during the COVID time, I really believe that some people are developing cardiac issues that may be temporary or maybe long-term also, that may have something to do with slight exposure to the virus or something like that. Did you ever get the virus?
Yeah, that's possible. And I actually had COVID, I think it was in May.
Can I ask you, what is Matt Jansen like when he coaches like non-famous pros? Does he pay as much attention? And moreover, I want to ask, do you think the cycles that he's giving you guys are similar to the cycles he gives to other people? How much does he change it, do you think? How cookie cutter is it?
I mean, I paid for a 6-month plan and he didn't really change anything. And not that I really necessarily need that for an off-season plan, but it was like he did the front end work and then just didn't care from there. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's what everyone says who are not pros or not on his radar for a pro, like, you know what I mean, at the top at that level. He'll get in the plan and then he literally just kind of is really lazy about his job. How much did you pay for 6 months?
It was my nutrition was $19.50 and the training was $5.50. But right before I signed up with him, I believe his nutrition plan went up by close to $200 for 6 months.
Holy shit.
So was he concerned about your health? I mean, did he seem genuine about, his concern when you were in the hospital?
No, not at all.
Really?
He did ask me a few questions, and he told me that they should do a certain test on me. But once I returned home, it was like I went in on a Monday, and the following Wednesday, he still hadn't responded to my Monday morning check-in. And he started asking me a couple questions, and he's like, "Well, you're getting hostile with me. Like, what did I do?" And he's like, "We need to like, is your mental state doing okay right now?" Kind of played it off like this is all on me.
What were you taking? This is Armon, but what were you taking that was so crazy, or what do you think that caused? I mean, what were you on?
So I was running TEF, DECA, EQ, and GH. I had never ran GH before, and I had never ran DECA and EQ together. What he had me doing was every other day injections. So the first week is 3 times, second week is 4 times. And on the second week, on the even weeks, the test was 40% more than I've ever taken. The EQ was 100% more. The DECA was 100% more than I've ever taken. And again, I've never taken them together.
You have the
so
doses?
He basically doubled me. What's that?
What was the doses per week?
On the weekly milligram?
So the most I've ever taken was 600 tests and 300 DECA or 300 EQ. On the even weeks, he had me taking 1,000 tests, 600 EQ and 600 DECA plus 4 IUs with an option of 2 more at
so that's
PM.
That's very mild.
It's a very moderate cycle, yeah.
Yeah, very mild.
That's
what Matt does with the. I had a couple.
Yeah, no, he's not going to load. He's not going to load those guys up.
Yeah, you can never find out what he really does because he doesn't do that stuff for these guys.
I sent you that one cycle that he sent a guy that he was training on the verge of going pro in 2015. He used to send his cycles back then in 15 before he got popular, when he had like one pro. His one pro was Jeff Long. Do you remember Jeff Long?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jeff Long, but then I had another guy that was coming up on the verge of going pro at the time, working with Matt. When he sent me the cycle, it was fucking crazy, Leo.
Oh, really?
100 D-ball, 100 Anadrol, 3,000, 400,000 mgs a test.
Is that pre-contest?
No, this was the off season.
Oh, wow. Oh, there was 200 milligrams of Danabol with Anadrol?
100 Anadrol, 100 D-ball.
No way. Wow. He's like our other buddy with 100 milligrams Superdrol.
I could probably still pull it up.
Bro, isn't it interesting? Okay, I'll ask the caller. Do we have more questions for the caller?
Yeah, I did have a question. I don't know if I asked you before, but did he ask you what you had taken prior so that way he just didn't double your amount of gear right off the bat? I mean, did he do some type of, screening on what your previous history was with gear? So you didn't just, because it's moderate to some people, but to you, it's double the amount. Did he do any type of research on you before just writing that out?
Yeah, I told in his little questionnaire before you sign up, he has everything listed on there. It's actually pretty thorough, but it lists on there what you've previously done. And I listed what I've done with the amounts.
He probably doesn't even read that questionnaire.
Yeah, well, that's another.
A lot of the coaches honestly don't read the questionnaires.
But I do want to point out one more thing. You guys say that was a mild cycle, and it very well could be for others. But as soon as I went to the ER, I stopped everything, and I felt almost 100% better.
Well, what they mean to say is it's mild compared to like other competitors that abuse things.
No, yeah, I understand that. I just wanted to just mention that. Once I dropped it, I felt fine.
Yeah, but that's a very...
He sent you like a national level off-season cycle for like a national level competitor. So I don't know what level you are, but to me, that's like a national level cycle.
Yeah.
My main complaint to the caller, the only thing that I heard that sounded really suspect to me is when you went to the hospital. At that point, I know maybe he's not so into health stuff, but just out of caring and responsibility, I feel like he would check in with you, see how you're doing, especially if you're checking in with him. Maybe if you stop messaging him, okay, I would understand if he wasn't checking in with you, but to try to make sure that you take care of your health, I would have hoped that hearing you're in the hospital would be more alarming, and then once you came home, he would stay on you to see how you're feeling and to check, because this is a heart. This is not something small.
Yeah, it was kind of weird because I went in on a Monday, right, and I think it was Wednesday that I ended up dropping him because he texted me a little bit on Monday and then he stopped, and then Tuesday I got a few, and then on Wednesday I heard from him again. So it was like 2 or 3 messages for 2 days, and then I was like, fuck this, I'm done.
Yeah, that's too much. If you have a client go to the hospital, no matter how many clients you have, you should really care about that.
Are you a national level competitor or just a regional guy?
I haven't been to one yet, but I hope to this year.
Okay. So how many years have you been cycling for?
5.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, the thing is with Jansen is he's going to send his guys that he's not posting or not his top pros these normal cycles, and then he's just going to load his top guys up with massive amounts. I mean, it's no secret. Dallas McCarver, when he died, they took his blood, and his testosterone was at 50,000. So to have a 50,000 testosterone level, you have to be taking at least 4 to 5 grams of testosterone a week, right? At least.
But the problem is when that came out, people used to say, hey, nobody takes that amount. But I can tell you guys, as my friend here was taking 10 grams, and he's a top pro in another
field. I know
field.
people that use that amount, so that's garbage. But and who knows? Dallas could have been doing that on his own, but I doubt it, man, because I've seen previous cycles, and I know maybe Bleu has seen some of the cycles from pros, but I've seen it before he got popular, when he used to send it on email, and dude, the doses were insane.
Yeah, I've seen a few cycles. They're pretty insane. Pretty insane. I've seen ones that are far worse than AJ's.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll let the caller go. Thank you so much for calling in.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you. We appreciate it. By the way, guys,
you know what I was going to ask him? I forgot. I was going to ask him what the average response time was.
But Blue, did you just say the guy's name? Do I have to cut that out? The AJ thing?
No. I was saying that no, I didn't say that.
I was just being sure. Yeah, just being sure if I have to cut that out. Okay.
No, not at all. No, I was saying that I've seen cycles from Matt that are far worse than even AJ Sims, which is, and I've seen some insane dosages with his stuff.
Who's his most famous clients? I've heard them before, but I don't remember who he does.
I don't think he has.
Is he the cement factory?
Yeah, that's Cement Factory.
Oh yeah, that's true. Those guys have an interesting look as well.
I got a couple of clients of his before. He's weird, right? He don't have like all hardeners and like hardly no test.
He pulls the test 2 weeks out, does like 100 Winstrol a day.
I've seen 200 Winstrol a day. 200.
Can we discuss this briefly?
200 mgs a day, yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy hardeners with like no test at all. And I got them because I was like, what were you doing? He had them on, I think it was like 60 or 70 milligrams of Halo, and then like it was a bunch of orals. Yeah.
So let me ask you guys these questions, pre-contest questions that I don't know the answer to. First of all, have any of you guys used EQ or Primo and Anthate for clients pre-contest?
Absolutely.
So you saw that what I sent you, Boston. You didn't think EQ and Primo were because the Primo, instead of Mastron, I switched the Primo with the Mastron. I feel like using Mastron 14 weeks out or something like that is...
Mastron you would use closer to the show. The Primo, you could probably start farther out.
Exactly, right? How far out would you remove an EQ before a guy's competition?
I have a client that I'm running it right into the show. It all depends. I'm sure Blue has guys that run it right in. It depends on the guy. Like I have a guy that doesn't hold any fluid and he needs all the, all those, anything that'll keep him full, or EQ, Anadrol, I have that all in. So I don't pull any of that. But then I have guys that I notice will retain a little bit, and I'll pull the EQ 5 weeks out.
5 weeks out. And you guys were just mentioning this guy has no test to pre-contest, the AJ Sims guy.
He pulls it, and not only does he pull it, Armon, I don't know if you've seen it.
A lot of anti-estrogens too.
Rimidex or Romacin and Letrozole with Novadex.
Yeah,
I don't know how the guys could even train.
Yeah, I saw one Letrozole. It was 5 mgs a day. That's absolutely insanity.
Holy, 5 mgs a day? Is that possible?
On top of Romacin and on top of Novadex.
There's no estrogen anywhere.
With no test.
Just for the audience to know that 1 milligram is a normal dose, and that dose crushes estrogen in a lot of people, right?
You better get hard doing that.
Okay, so what about this? Why you were saying some people you were removing EQ before the thing, but are you talking about removing all injectables, Boston? Do some people remove, because the guy I was talking about, he normally removes injectables 1 week before the competition.
Yeah, I think Blue might too. I actually don't. I like to keep the trend in the Mastron all the way up until like about Thursday, as long as it's not lumping them.
Yeah, why would you remove it?
When I tell my clients on the last week to split it up in half cc shots so there's no lumping on the last week.
With an insulin syringe?
They could do insulin syringe or they could attach a little small syringe whatever works.
Yeah.
But that's what I did for my show. Yeah.
What do you say, Blue? Yeah.
I said it just depends on the person. I mean, I've had guys run Anadrol, the last.
Well, that's what I was thinking of. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, it just depends on the person. Some guys can run stuff all the way to the day of the show because, if it's not broke, why fix it? You know what I'm saying? If it's holding that look, it's sustaining. That complete package. You don't want. I tell people all the time, it's like a house. Everything's complete. You pull one beam. Things are going to, crumble. You got to keep everything intact, but with each individual, it's completely different.
I know what you mean.
With that certain individual, for sure, I would keep the GH in the whole time. And for sure, I would keep a little bit of maybe Anadrol, even if it's 25 mgs. And for sure, I would keep all the drugs in as long as I could.
For the audience to know, we're talking about somebody that I was just helping slightly, who's a top pro. And by the way, boss, I just found out he has never used GH before 2017.
That's crazy.
Ever. He never used it. So yeah, he doesn't keep it in, nothing. He did barely, So anyway, it's pretty interesting. Okay, what about the orals? When do you guys introduce orals pre-contest? Would you introduce it 14 weeks out? Because you might want to use a lot of orals like Anadrol stuff to keep the person full later. So would you try to give the liver a break for the first few weeks at least and more injectables?
I don't use any orals until 8 weeks out.
That's
Actually,
what I would think.
6 weeks out. I don't use any oral till 6 weeks out.
Okay.
Yeah, about 8. I use like 8.
Exactly. And
But
do you guys like Winstrol? Like, if you have halo testing and you have like Anavar or Proviron or Winstrol, all these kind of similar compounds, Primo, maybe acetate, which of these combine well together? Do any of them combine well, or it's like if you have a strong halo testing, you got them all covered?
No, I've seen good results with like I'd rather have somebody run 50 mgs Anavar, 50 mgs Winstrol than just 100 mgs of Winstrol.
So that's true, huh? I thought so.
I would way rather. I've seen better results doing that. So I would rather do that, and then I would rather add like a Primo acetate. The last like 5 or 6 weeks. And Primo acetate's hard to get, but if you can get good Primo acetate orals, it's very, very effective.
So what percentage do you think of pros remove GH pre-contest, like the week of?
That's Blue. He would know better than me.
Yeah, what do you think, Blue? Do most of them keep it in?
Honestly, again, it depends on the person. I know some guys.
What do you see people
average.
doing? What's the average?
I would say average, between 5 and 7 to 8 days out. I mean, that's what I've seen. Trying to keep as full as possible, and then pulling it out just to lose that slight film, but retaining the fullness. Intramuscular. It's just that fine line. But it really just depends, on the person, because some of these guys, like Bostin was saying, they stay so dry. You pull certain compounds, they're going to lose that fullness, and they look flat and they look softer because that muscle is no longer pushing against that thin skin. So you actually need some of those things still present, to complete that look. But yeah, I've had some guys that have ran it up to the day of the show. I used to do that, and some guys, I've had to have them pull it, a couple weeks out. It just depends.
I think it's something you got to ask yourself: would this certain bodybuilder look better, a little fuller?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Or is this guy already naturally a full guy and he's holding extra water? So in a case where a guy's naturally full, you could probably pull the growth. But if I train mainly white guys, like I have to keep that shit in, and I'd rather use a little bit of a diazide to get rid of any fluid from the growth and pull the growth out, because I like to keep everything consistent.
You know what's funny? Yeah. Diazide works perfectly against the main way growth hormone causes water retention. The ENAC system.
Diazide dried me out so much overnight with just a half tab twice on Friday. It was crazy what it did.
Hey guys, by the way, I wanted to talk about a separate subject if we have some brief time. So Dennis James did an interview with Regan Grimes about his time in Kuwait. That was fine, sort of, but Trigili responded to it, and in Trigili's response, they sort of, together with Dennis James all together, it's sort of like, I, as a half Arab from the Arabian Peninsula, I felt it was like racist. I wanted to comment on something. Okay, I'm not into racism bullshit. I don't care if you're racist, but I just want to comment so that they know.
I don't care if you're racist.
Kuwait, I get sand N-word all the time on my channel. It's fine, but I just want to comment that Kuwait as a country, I've been there many times. One of my close friends is a prince from Kuwait. He's one of the top princes in Kuwait. I know a lot about their lifestyle. Most Kuwaitis don't benefit that much directly from any kind of small amount of natural resources that they have. Oh, I guess I'll continue this after the call. We're getting a caller in. Before I rant about the Kuwait. Hello, caller, do you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
Hey, welcome to the show.
What's going on?
How you doing? So Blue, maybe you can guide us?
Yeah, I screened this guy too. He kind of a 2-for-1. He's worked with a few different guys, and one was the head snake, the human virus. And the second guy was that fat guy who trains bikini girls, Cash or whatever his name is.
Oh God,
that guy! He
don't train nobody. He takes their money and doesn't respond.
I remember that guy. He's in Texas, isn't he, or something? The Cash guy.
Louisiana.
I don't know where he's out of.
Well, tell us your story, brother.
Okay, first I'm going to start with the little backstory and everything. So first, I've always loved bodybuilding. I've been bodybuilding for probably like 12 years now, 12 years. I didn't even know coaching existed until I seen Bostin's first video years and years ago. So that's what got me into like trying to find coaches and things like that, because honestly, I don't really have many friends that bodybuild, and a lot of people that do, they do it more around here. At least they're not super serious about it. everybody just wants to do drugs and not really follow the meal plan and shit like that. And it's just like, it's not really what it's all about. So I started working with a few coaches, but recently the latest coach I worked with was Palumbo, and I actually wanted to do a show. You know, I finally got to where my businesses were all running smooth, and you know, I could actually focus on bodybuilding. Like everything crazy in life was, you know, settled down. So I heard a lot about Palumbo. I heard all the stories when people said, you know, he just gives you a cookie cutter diet. So when I questioned him, when I asked him, I'm like, you know, you give everybody the same diet. He's like, oh yeah, but I change them. You know, we got to start somewhere. We got to have a base, but I keep changing it as things go. So we started working together. I've never done insulin in my life. I've done a lot of other shit, but never done insulin ever. So this guy gets me started on insulin. He first starts me because he says, oh, my pancreas sucks. So he starts me doing 37 IUs in the morning and 36 IUs at night. And then my blood sugars were in the 90s, random days, like once every 7 or 8 days, it might run up to like 103 or 104. So he's like, man, your blood sugars are too high. You know, this would be like one day out of every 7 or 8 days. Like, your blood sugars are too high. Your pancreas isn't working. So he has me go get Novolin R, the fast acting shit now. And while I'm on 36 in the morning and 37 at night, he then wants me to add 5 IUs before meal 1, meal 3, and meal 5. So that's, you know, was that 90 IUs of insulin a day for a guy who's never, ever done insulin. So I didn't really think it was that much, but I told him, I said, you know, can I really do that much insulin before bed? You know, is that normal? He's like, oh yeah, nothing to worry about. So me being the person I am, I get a little nervous, and I'd feel like after my workouts, the first couple of days he had me on all that insulin, after my workouts, I'd get like super lightheaded, super weak. I need to eat food really bad. So I would check my blood sugars, and it got down to like one day it was like 47. The next day it was 57. So I shoot him an email. I'm like, dude, this isn't right. I don't feel good. You know, like, this is what's happening. He's like, oh, that's crazy. Your pancreas all of a sudden just started working. Maybe it's because once you started taking all the insulin, your pancreas starts working normally again. I'm like, what the fuck? That doesn't make any sense, but whatever. He's like, well, just skip the last shot at night. Okay, fine, whatever. So I started doing that, and it was still fluctuating like super low and super high, because I think adding the fast acting stuff in the middle, it just wasn't right. So he finally starts cutting me down because we start prepping. So I start wanting to prep for a show, but he still has me doing 20 IUs before bed, 20 IUs in the morning of Novolin N. And I mean, not knowing any better, I thought that was normal, you know, because I've never used insulin. I never even actually researched insulin, because honestly, I was always scared of insulin. I heard a lot of bad stories about it, just from people overusing it and things like that. So it was always like the one thing I was scared to use. So anyways, I'm using it, and we're in the cutting phase. We're like 4 weeks out, and still the same thing. He has me on insulin, and I'm like, dude, you know, you still got me doing these McDonald's cheat meals every weekend. Every Saturday it was go to McDonald's, at least have a quarter pounder and fries. This is a normal thing. Everybody talks about, you know, Dave Palumbo and his quarter pounders. This is, I don't know, he thinks McDonald's is like a magic,
he really does,
some kind of magic. It does something for you. He talks about how the fats from McDonald's specifically, the fats and the salt from specifically McDonald's, you know, does something for you. I don't know what the hell it does. But anyways, every weekend I was having the McDonald's and the fries. And I'm like, dude, I'm 4 weeks out from this show. Like, I feel kind of, you know, I was getting leaner, don't get me wrong, but I was not show lean, like not even close to it. And I tell him that, and he's like, no, we're going to have you dry. It's just a little bit of water. I'm looking at my pictures like, dude, this is not a little bit of fucking water. So I started reaching out to other coaches like, hey, man, I'm supposed to do a show, you know, in 4 weeks, and, you know, this is what I look like. What do you guys think? And almost everybody responded the same thing. Nah, dude, you're not ready for a show. This was my first show. I get it, but still, I don't want to go to a show looking like shit. I don't want to get on stage and be like the fat guy on stage. You know what I mean? So anyways, I start talking to another coach, and he's like, yeah, I guarantee if you don't do any checkups, Palumbo's not going to respond to you. And I was like, well, I'm 4 weeks out from a show. I'm pretty sure, you know, he's going to respond to you. Mind you, when he told me I just had a little bit of water, he's like, just get some Diazide before the show. You'll take the Diazide and you'll be fine. Like, all right, I've never taken diuretics, but okay, listen to this guy. So I stop. I don't give him any updates, and he doesn't say anything. At this point, 4 weeks out, I was doing 80 minutes a day of cardio. He wouldn't let me split it up fasted in the morning and the rest after my workout. It'd either be you have to do it fasted or you have to do it after your workout. All 80 minutes.
Ridiculous.
80 fucking minutes. And I was up to 100 micrograms of Clen and 100, I want to say it was 100 T3. I got the screenshot here. I'm about to look it up.
100? Wow.
Yeah, Dave brings his guys up to 100 T3 too.
That's hectic.
And it was still going up, man. It was still going up. It was like every time I talked to him, he's like, oh, add another 12.5.
No wonder Dave has an arrhythmia. I mean, for God's sake, you take 100 T3 with 100 Clen or near that for multiple shows, you're going to get an arrhythmia. He has an arrhythmia himself. I'm not making this shit up.
Yeah.
Like, he has the result of what this is. Anyway, please continue.
Yeah, so he had me in all that. He had me doing all that cardio. He wouldn't let me split it up. I'm still in the McDonald's. And I still look like shit. Like, I didn't look like shit, but I look like a guy that, I'm working out, but I'm definitely not show ready. So I don't message him, and he doesn't respond. And then the person he had me doing posing practice with, really nice person. She's awesome. I don't have nothing negative to say about her. But she didn't know how to pose a male, Like, she didn't know how to angle my body, make me, it was basically like choreography, like dancing and shit. Mm-hmm. I'm like, this is bodybuilding, bro. Like, oh, you got me like basically dancing. And it was, she was nice. I got nothing bad to say about her. I don't even want to say her name because she was an awesome person. But yeah, he doesn't, he didn't have me doing what I was supposed to do. All right, let me see here. Oh, and be prepared to do all the fucking lipolyze and somalyze and fiberlyze. He had me doing fiberlyze 3 times a day.
Oh my God.
He had lipolyze and what is it, somalyze, whatever. He bumped it up. It got up to like 5 pills a day. When I stopped taking that shit, nothing changed. I was getting leaner about it. So it's like when you're working with this guy, and then his isolized protein was better than any protein out there. You have to take that protein. It's like, what the fuck is the difference? Well, I hated his protein because I didn't think it tasted good, and it was sticky. But yeah, it's like he sales pitches you with supplements, which is cool. Hey, if your supplements work and you're my coach, I'm going to spend my money with you. No problem. But it was like, this is what you have to take. And then when you start taking the supplements, it's like it ups more and more and more. It's like always, add a shake, add a carbolyze and an isolized shake. Always add the fucking shakes.
He has so many clients that selling his supplements to the clients actually makes him a lot of money. So he has to make sure they're all on his supplements.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I get it, if your supplements work, great, but it always felt like a sales pitch. And then like the lipolyze and somalyze, I didn't know this shit from them at all. Like I said, when I stopped taking them, I was getting way leaner, but that also due to, I stopped using insulin as soon as I stopped working with him, like 0 insulin. And I didn't need it. My blood sugars were actually great after I stopped using the insulin. Like I was in the 80s every morning.
Wow. So the thing is, Dave has like a misunderstanding. He thinks that growth hormone makes your pancreas unable to produce insulin. He doesn't realize that growth hormone, it just makes you insulin resistant at the cell level. So it doesn't have anything to do with your pancreas. Your pancreas will start overworking, and maybe you cause some oxidative stress to it from overworking, the way an obese person might be. But in reality, a lot of people have discovered that diabetics, if they just lose their visceral fat, as long as they're not type 1 diabetics, the pancreas starts working again after bariatric surgery and so on. So, but Palumbo's idea is this. He's like, okay, the GH makes me insulin resistant, so I'm going to inject more insulin. That's still that insulin you're resistant against also. So the longer you do this, the more you have to raise that insulin dose over the years. It won't be over a year, but maybe over 2-3 years. You might have to raise that dose.
He was increasing it over just a couple months. He just kept increasing and increasing it. It was, and then the funny thing is, he would have me do keto days. I don't know if this is, this is something I haven't even researched, but he would have me do keto days, and I'm still doing like freaking 90 IUs of this shit on a keto day. Which, which to me didn't make sense.
Blue, have you ever heard of any coach using that much Lantus in prep? I've never heard of that every day.
It was Novolin N.
Yeah, I mean, Novolin N is about 8 hours, but still.
Yeah,
it's absolute. It's just stupidity. That's why I tell people to do their research. These guys are absolute frauds. Please do your research. These guys are absolute frauds. And
man. I'll be honest. It was from you guys' videos that I was like, man, I need to do more research because this isn't feeling right. And it didn't seem right. And it's because of you guys. What's that? How big am I? I was at that time. Right now, I'm about 235 pounds. At that time, I was 240 pounds. I got down to 224 pounds. 5'11".
Okay, so heavy. Okay.
I would have thought, by the way, when he was asking Palumbo, like, why do I not look right and stuff, I would have thought Palumbo would have said, like, don't worry, we're not going to use insulin the last 2 weeks. We're pulling it out completely or something. You're not going to look like this. There's a film of water from the insulin.
Insulin was staying.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
It didn't seem like that shit was going. It did not seem like the insulin was going. He told me straight, he said, your pancreas sucks. I'm like, okay, thanks, doctor. Like, what the fuck?
Palumbo said some funny word the other day. I was watching one of his videos. Oh my God. He says the wrong medical terms when he talks about shit. He doesn't know which word to use. Like he guesses around sometimes. Today he was saying Tatka is very good for the brain. I mean, it is good for the brain, but he doesn't know that, like, he doesn't know a lot of shit, but he goes around stuff and nobody notices that. Like this one, the idea of using more insulin to combat insulin resistance does make sense.
You should have used metformin in prep, like sustained release metformin.
Or something like that somehow helps.
He does not like metformin at all. He doesn't like metformin at all.
Yeah, but
I don't know if he's ever put anybody on metformin.
Yeah, but it's funny. Dave used to shit on Lantus. When I work with a coach called Mike Arnold, who introduced me to Lantus, it was the best progress I ever made in the off season. And I told Dave, he's like, why the fuck would you ever take Lantus? He's like, that's a long-acting insulin. He said it does nothing for bodybuilders. And then his ex-fiance, Colette, schools him and does a podcast saying you need to have all your clients on Lantus. And now he gives everyone Lantus.
That's true as well. He has an obsession with blood sugar, by the way, guys. That's not really realistic. So in the old days, people used to think diabetics have bad health because their blood sugar isn't controlled. They used to think diabetics die of heart disease and shit like that because their blood sugar is too high. They don't control it. Recent studies that compare type 2 diabetics who closely manage their blood sugar with insulin and those who don't manage it, because you can tell from the HbA1c in their blood test, right? And also you can tell from just fasting glucose and stuff like that. The ones who measure it closely actually... the ones who manage it closely actually live about the same time as those who don't. The difference is they don't get the eye issues, they don't go blind, they don't lose their limbs as much, their leg don't have amputations, but they still die of heart disease because insulin is so harmful and because of other issues. So in the old days, in the 80s and 90s, maybe when Palumbo went to medical school, they used to think that close blood sugar management was really important for health. They no longer really think so. They just see the insulin resistance as being the worst thing for health. Like Palumbo at the end of his career, if you guys look at his limbs, even with the synthol and all, his arms were really getting small compared to his waist, and his upper legs were getting smaller. Those are the basic signs of insulin resistance.
Yeah, but he you got to compliment his wrist flexibility.
Have you ever noticed that? He does this shit. What is that? And especially when posing, he did like
Got me choking on water over here.
That's so true. I've always noticed his wrist goes like this randomly. Like he's on the phone, he's like that is long fingers.
Oh yeah,
long ass hand.
He talks. He's leading a parade. I mean, it's.
That's so funny. That's so funny. Hey guys, check your group message, our chat. I sent you a really funny story about one guy. But anyway, to the caller, who is the other guy you want to tell us? We heard about that other guy, Cash, because we've had a caller call in about
Cash,
him before.
You guys, I remember I listened to that. You had a caller call about him, and it was funny because he actually would go to the same gym as this guy. I wish I went to the same gym as this guy because the dude, he just took the freaking money. He sent one meal plan and a workout plan. And then the girl I was with, because she was the one that wanted to work with him because he was posting all these pictures with I think who was the hot girl at that time? It was, I think, Paige Hathaway. He kept posting that he was working with her. So the girl I was dating at the time, because this was years ago, the girl I'm dating at the time, she's like, oh, I want to work with him. So hired him. Yeah, he sends her a meal plan and he sends her a workout. And the workout has an insane amount of cardio. So she starts doing the cardio with the workout and she hurts her leg. So she's like trying to message him like, hey, I hurt my leg, so can I cut the cardio out, but I still want to continue my workouts, whatever. No response. 2 weeks, no response. So she tells me, she's like, he's not responding to me. So I email him, no response. I get on his Instagram. I'm like, dude, like, are you going to respond to emails or what? Like, what are you going to do? Blocks me. Like, he just straight took the money and just didn't do anything about it, man.
He's like the bodybuilding hoodlum. He like jacks people, this guy.
Yeah, it was just a straight scam, man.
Sounds like Trigilli.
Here's,
Yeah, it does, but Trigilli's, at least before he used to be on drugs. This guy seems sober. He's just jacking people.
We got to give him a name. Yeah, man. We should call him the Hamburglar.
His name is already Cash. He takes cash. That's what
he takes cash. He does, man.
Yeah, he accepts cash, and he'll take it if you don't want him to. It as well. Well, this was a funny call.
I gotta say one thing about what you guys are doing. People like me definitely, obviously there's a lot of people like me that appreciate this and need this kind of stuff because, man, I worked with a lot of coaches, man. I can give you a name. I can give you like 5 or 6 different names. And like, I could tell some of them just didn't know what the hell they were doing, but they weren't bad people. You know what I mean? I even worked with one of the coaches I worked with at the time, Gary Stridham. He was a cool dude, but he was just a genetic freak. The guy, I mean, very nice guy, but he can't really coach anybody. The shit he gave me was like so weird. It makes no sense. But it's like, you guys doing this helps so many of us, like, to actually realize, okay, damn, these coaches don't know what the hell they're doing. You got to actually do more research on what you're doing because there's a lot of scammers in this shit, man. I talked to so many different coaches and they're scammers. A couple of my friends have hired people and the same thing happens. They take their money. They don't hear from them for like 2-3 weeks, or like the email will come, 2, 3, 4 days later. And it's like, dude, my show's coming up. How are you going to respond to me 2, 3, 4 days later? So,
bro, this actually happened to me. I haven't gotten into too much on the show before, but I was scammed also. Like, I hired a bodybuilding coach, but the thing about me is I was hiring him for a source. So I didn't mind, but he wanted me to do an intake form of the show. I'm not a bodybuilder, but I did the intake form. He sent me a program. I realized the guy never read the intake form. Then I tried to contact him. He never answered. And so I've seen this before myself. I really know it happens. Like, some people are really like this. And then when I tried to fire the coach, he called me and asked me, no, can you please don't cancel the money? I hadn't talked to him for 4 months. He's like, don't cancel it. Really don't. And he starts yelling at me. Like, I was like, what the fuck? So this has happened before, to me.
He's a well-known coach, Leo?
I'll tell you who he is later.
Yeah, okay.
You can tell the style a little bit. Yeah, but caller, I really appreciate you saying that. We don't always know if it's really that useful, but Blue and Boston tell me they hear positive remarks from other people. So I'm really glad to know that we could be of service.
So useful. So useful. I tell everybody in the gym about it. Like, because you get all these guys, they come up to me. I go to some commercial gyms around here. You always get these freaking people that come up to me like, oh, I've been on a cycle for like 3 years and they don't want to come off. Like, one dude I was talking to is on trend for like, I want to say like a year and a half. He told me straight. And I'm like, dude, you need to come off. And I always direct them. So I'm like, just watch some of this guy's videos. It's going to change your views a lot. So like, yeah, you guys keep doing it. I refer so many people to this because it's so informative. Like, I learned so much just from like you guys. It's not like you have a ton of videos, but it's super, super, super informative. So yeah, you guys keep it up, man. And we definitely appreciate it.
That means much more than you know. Really, it means a great deal. Thank you so much. Really, thank you for joining us as well. But really, thank you for saying that. It really means a great deal to us. Thank you, brother.
Absolutely appreciate you guys, man.
All right, bye. That was a fun call. What a nice guy. Sometimes I get surprised because I feel like you guys don't have to deal with usually the comments, but we get a lot of negative comments all the time. And those, human beings are not evolved to deal with negative shit from like hundreds of people sent to you, like in traditionally, if you think of evolutionary life, if we were hunter-gatherers, your brain is biased toward negativity because negativity could kill you. Like, if something goes wrong, you got to be paying attention to the negative, not as much the positive, not what's possible, what could go wrong. So human beings evolved to be biased, to look for the negativity. So sometimes I don't realize that people really like the show and stuff like that, You were telling me, Boston, that somebody messaged you about the show that I was really shocked by.
Who?
Nick.
Oh, yeah. He was like, when are you guys doing the next podcast? Yeah.
Well, I did not expect Nick Walker watches the show.
Oh, he watches all of our shit.
He's a cool guy. It's cool because we like him too, and sometimes we watch the other show when he's on it. So yeah. It's pretty cool. I like him and Guy a lot, especially. Okay, guys, can we
Rick Collins sent me a message.
Who?
Rick sent me a message. Rick Collins. He watched.
No way. He watches it?
Yeah, because our first show, our long podcast, which we had to take down.
Yeah.
I mentioned Rick's name, and I guess he saw it. So he was like, "Yeah, thanks for." He texted me, "Thanks for the shout out," because I know Rick from just a long time ago, and I guess he was.
Boston's friends with him too, right? Sounds like a really good guy. Yeah, he's a lawyer. For the audience to know, Rick Collins is a lawyer who helps a lot of bodybuilders out, and he's highly recommended. He helped, somebody will give you some free advice too and stuff like that. Yeah. Hey guys, did you see the message about the 13 times? I just want to ask something. Yeah. How do you catch your wife having sex 13 times cheating on you? How do you get? Okay, so listen. The first time I heard it, I didn't really pay attention to it properly. The other day, I met my buddy and we went to Blue. You saw the message, right? Check the group chat. Check the group chat. So I went with my buddy to the mall the other day, and he started talking about that guy again, and he was like, 13 times. How the fuck you catch your wife 13 times? Then I was like, I just started laughing. I couldn't handle. I was laughing hysterically in the mall. I was like, how can you catch? He caught her. One time he caught her. Listen to this story. He sent his wife to go to the airport to pick up a former Miss Olympia. She goes to the airport. She comes late. He goes to the Mr. Olympia directly. Said, you slept with my wife? The guy said, yeah, I did. He said, oh, okay, fuck. Then he went to my buddy and he's like, this guy slept with my wife again. It's 13 times.
Same guy she's having sex with?
Well, no, he catches her sometimes. Sometimes he catches the guy and asks him directly, like, you slept with her? And they're like, yeah. He's like, oh, fuck, again.
Dude, the first time, I'm gone. That's crazy.
Okay, first time, second time, fourth time? How did you get to the fourth time that she's doing that shit to you? I'm sorry, I just find this funny. Okay, guys, let's
Maybe he likes it, dude. Maybe he likes it. I know guys that have wives that they like when their wife gets fucked by other guys.
That makes sense, but why would you tell your friend complaining like 13 times, bro? Okay. Like, don't be sad about it. You like it. Just admit you like it. Weird.
Yeah, you have to at that point.
Yeah. Okay, let's do a couple of questions because there are a couple of interesting ones. First, G-Lift says, best fruit juice for intra-workout humalog. I know juices have different levels of glucose, fructose. Just wanted to know which one Bostin likes to keep blood glucose as steady as possible. I have an opinion about this.
Juice.
Do you use juice?
Grape juice. If I use juice, grape juice.
But when you don't use juice, what do you use?
Gatorade.
Gatorade? Do you guys use carbohydrate powders, those waxy maize and shit like that?
Yeah,
I feel like those don't digest as well.
Okay, here's my point about this. Insulin makes you insulin resistant, and fructose makes you insulin resistant. So kiwi juice has very little fructose, but there's no reason you can just drink glucose. All you need is glucose. You don't need fructose. If you have fructose is a toxin to the liver, temporarily makes the liver store fat. You know?
There's no fructose in Gatorade. It's just dextrose.
Yeah, I don't know if Gatorade has any fructose. If it has sugar.
No, yeah.
No sugar in Gatorade?
No, there's sugar, but it's just dextrose. It's not fructose.
We got to find this out later. Okay, so there's another question.
Hey, Leo, do you consider dextrose fructose?
No. Dextrose is another kind of carbohydrate. Yeah. Okay, so, well, I just wanted to comment on that because in the old days, GH15 used to post take 15 units of GH and then sip pineapple juice all day. And I don't know if really people were sipping pineapple juice, but I just want you guys to know that's one of the highest fructose kind of juices. So you do that long enough, you'll look like Palumbo at the end of his career with small arms. No, seriously, and it happens to a lot of bodybuilders. It happened a little bit to Hidetada. It happens to a lot of bodybuilders that abuse insulin.
Blue, did John or Reagan ever have you do Vitargo with grape juice?
As soon as you said grape juice, he popped in my head. Yeah, he loves the grape juice. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the juices. I'd rather use cyclic dextrin or something. But I know he was big on the grape juice.
But did he have he never combined it with Vitargo with you? No.
Oh yeah, with Vitargo way back in the day. Yeah. Tried it a couple of times. That's when I was first messing with insulin. I remember talking to him on the phone. He was such a nice guy. I remember I was like, hey dude, thank you for your time. I mean, this is way back in, 2010, it was right before I tried it. And I was like, dude, I got to give you something, you're such a nice guy, for talking with me about insulin and this and that. And I think he was like, okay, just send me a Starbucks card.
Yeah.
He's such a nice guy. Such a nice guy.
Like Amazon gift cards.
I think maybe it was an Amazon gift card, but yeah, he's a really cool dude.
Is he still alive?
Oh yeah, John's still alive. He's one of the nicest guys in the industry, man. I had to shove money down his pocket, Leo, when he came all the way down to California to train me and Cody Lewis. Wow. And we met in the parking lot. He put me through a full workout, talked to me. I had to shove money down his pocket. He wouldn't take my money.
That's unusual. See, when you have people like that in the industry, we have to talk about those good people as well. They're really doing the opposite.
Forgot to say, to touch bases on the callers, just so people know. I mean, I really screen these when I can. We get a lot of these, and with me training hundreds of people, it's hard for me to schedule and screen some of these guys, and not all. I don't just let anyone kind of through the door on this podcast. I touched bases with you guys, on that Palumbo one with the exotic pictures.
That's true.
I had one guy that contacted me.
That's why you brought up this thing, right? That's what made you think of it, right? Because I forgot he does that, but my wife mentioned every so often, his wrist is so flexible. I was like, but you thought about it because of that story.
I think it might be missing a screw, but who knows?
Something's up there in that wrist. It's a weak ass wrist.
I had one caller that called me, a guy, hit me up, and he's like, dude, I got to tell you my story and this and that. And I was like, okay, I'll schedule a call. And we kept missing each other. And then finally I got on the call. This guy sounded super genuine, but I'll kind of share a little bit of it now. I didn't have him as one of the callers because I'm still pretty shocked by it. But, he said he worked with Palumbo, and Palumbo was requesting certain poses, and sometimes without trunks, sometimes doing a front lat spread, laying down with your feet there. I mean, certain things like that.
Silly.
And so the dude was super serious on the phone. He went in depth about everything. And I was like, you know what, man, I don't know about this. And so the reason I bring that up, I get a lot of these, people, that want to come on and talk about their experience, and we just don't let anyone through the door. It's I try to make sure everything is, completely legit.
I have two more people for the next podcast. One is a chick that's going to be a good one, a really good one.
For what coach?
Mahali, Justin. I think is it Justin Mahali? Mahali, you've heard of him, right? He trains a bunch of chicks. He's one of the fakest coaches ever.
I used to train him. I used to train him. Yeah, way back.
Yeah, he's a fucking fraud.
He couldn't handle an off season, and he couldn't handle a prep. But yeah, all I know about him is he just trains bikini girls. He's just a bikini coach.
Yeah, and I don't know how. He's another guy that I don't know how he has clients because.
Who's the other? You said you had a caller for Phil Viz too, right?
Yes, I do.
Phil Viz is
he's going to email you, Blue, and get it set up.
So Bostin, what was the thing that happened earlier this week? You posted him on stage, and he got really upset. What was that all about?
No, so he sent me a text. You remember I told you he sent me a text saying that he goes today I just got I show you his screenshot. He's like, today I just got a client because of your guys' podcast, and it's a client I've been needing to have for a while now. And in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, well, I was like, I'm glad we're able to help your business.
Dude,
and look, so check this out. So I tell him, I go, by the way, we got a caller calling in for you. And this is before we even had a caller, Leo. So I was just fucking with him. Leo, he went fucking berserk, just blew my phone up.
Oh.
It's so sad and pathetic, dude, because this is the truth. And I know we've talked about this. Other coaches I've talked about that he thinks they're his friends. There's a lot of people who have talked about him having a serious mental illness.
It's either a mental illness or something.
Very, very obvious. I feel bad for him. He has no clients. That's why I tell these people, and I'm going to say it forever, go to the IG, do your research. The reason people are talking and working out because they have nothing to show. He has no clients. He has nothing going on. He has to talk because there's no clients. And anytime anybody calls him on stuff, he flips out. Not a lot of people know, he threatened Bostin and his family. I gotta just be honest. The only reason this guy has not been touched is because he's such a rat. He tried to rat on his own client. We can't do shit to him because he's gonna rat on everybody. He's gonna call the cops. You can't do shit to this guy. Yeah, that's what people need to understand. That's a really scary thing.
Rat on his own client.
One of his clients came on this show, talked about something. Phil was so disturbed, he messaged Leo and said, "I know who that person is. They sell drugs and I'm contacting the police."
You did that?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Many times.
Way across the line. There is no room in this world for snitches. That is the craziest shit I've ever seen in my life. I just,
really
him threatening Boston's family, being a snitch, being a fake coach.
Scum.
I'm complete. He's another scumbag. I'll never talk to the dude again in my life. He's another.
I've blocked him. Yeah.
Yeah, another virus. And I know you'll probably see this and flip out. Instead of putting your energy into flipping out, go get some mental health care and actually get some clients. Quit being broke and flipping out.
Let's just comment on that though. We would never pick on somebody with a true, like, just natural mental health issue, but at the very least. No, but there's living in downtown LA for 5 years. I can tell you, there's a lot of drug-induced mental illness. All the homeless in LA and in downtown LA are all on drugs. None of it has anything to do with just being crazy. They're all on. I've talked to so many people. It's just him. When I was talking to him, I was telling Boston, this guy's on something. And then, I found out from his friend Trigili that he's a ketamine or whatever. It's drug-induced and he's getting wacky. You need to go get some help. Go, maybe go to sober living. I've been to sober living before. It's not embarrassing.
You don't think he's always like that? I think he's always fucked up.
Well, he's very neurotic and very unstable. Like while you're talking to him, you can see him flipping around on edge. And if you're that neurotic and that anxious, man, that's going to cause you to die younger. You're just that anxiety, just that all the time he's never at peace.
And I also want to mention a screenshot that he posted that was like bizarre to me. And that's why Jamie Johal ended up leaving him.
Really?
He wanted no. The reason why Jamie thinks Phil Viz is a complete nut job and he's unstable, and that's another reason why he doesn't want to work with him. But the main reason this time is he wanted to do weekly check-ins with Phil, like a normal client, weekly detailed check-ins, and Phil was like, "No, I only do once a month." So Phil Viz made a post that I sent to Bleu, and it was Phil Viz saying that he only I think he tries to promote on his page like he has a ton of clients. Like he acts, everything he says, he makes it seem that he's like so busy and has a ton of clients and stuff like that.
It's all talk. That's why I tell people to do the research. There is no clients. There's nothing. There's nothing. There's nothing there. The reason
the clients he does have leave pretty fucking fast. But the main reason is Jamie wanted to check in every week. He wanted to be held accountable every week. And Phil said, no, only once a month. So Phil made a post saying that he only allows off-season check-ins once a month, formal check-ins once a month, which is crazy. Like your body changes week to week. I mean, off-season, I do check-ins every week, even with my lifestyle clients, like people that are not even competing, my lifestyle clients, every week they check in with me. So I don't understand.
He should.
I think 2 weeks is good. Yeah. 2 weeks is good if they want to weekly though. Like I give them the choice, like 2 weeks, but if you want to check in weekly, that's fine with me.
That was his best client though.
Was pushing it.
That was his most well-known client, I think, because he lost everybody else recently.
Jamie and Phil, but they both left him.
Yeah, I mean, why would your best known client who helps your reputation by saying publicly that you're coaching him, taking that huge risk because he's going to spill, but he says you're coaching him anyway, taking that risk, why would you tell the guy, no, don't send me a picture every week? What does it take so much time out of you?
You know what's crazy with him too is he tries to make stuff so complicated. Like I'll be honest, I've seen a few of his programs before. Like he'll have like clean food and like some of the meals will be like, okay, this is a bodybuilder meal. But then he'll throw in like a ton of cereal, and this is in contest prep. Rice Krispie treats, yogurt. Like in prep, in my opinion at least, in prep you need to remove all gluten and dairy. That's like the biggest thing. Like you need to remove gluten and dairy. And he literally all the way into the show has him eat Rice Krispies. He has him doing cereal. He has him doing yogurt. Like that's like you're not going to get in shape doing that.
He does
That's
a couple
weird,
of he's a weird guy because he's not a like practical empirical guy like yourself, Boston, and maybe Blue, like what works, but he's also not a scientific guy. He thinks he's a scientific guy, but he doesn't know a lot. Like for example, he told me, like I was telling him, by the way, a little tip, like thyroid hormone increases muscle contraction and increases GLUT4 expression in muscle. So there is a reason to have like slightly higher thyroid levels in the off season, except the problem is it affects the heart. So no. Thyroid does nothing in the muscle. I was like, no, bro, I'm telling you something you don't know about. Just why are you trying to teach? I've mentioned this before, but he's like that.
Really, he thinks he's like really like a scientist.
Really, like he thinks like he's talking down to me. Well, like you're really dumb.
If he's telling people they have to wait 37 minutes after an insulin shot to train, think how crazy he's getting.
Yeah, exactly. Why was that guy saying Palumbo did 36 units in the morning and 37 at night?
So he's talking about Palumbo. If the clients can't get Lantus, he'll have them use Novolin N, because Novolin N is now you can get over the counter at which is Novolin NPH. So you can, or Humalin NPH, you can get that at Walmart over the counter now. Where Lantus, you need a prescription. So his clients that can't get Lantus, he goes just go get Novolin N, which is like an 8 to 10 hour insulin.
That much? So I've never heard David giving someone that much insulin.
No, he's changed, Armon. So when me and you work with him, he only did like Humalin R like twice a day. You remember, like 10 in the morning?
Yeah, Matt.
10 in the morning.
Max 16. Yeah, that's max 16.
Yeah, you're doing 10 in the morning and like 8 later in the day or something like that. And this was back in 2013 when I worked with him. And then I brought up Lantus to him because I was using it. And this was in 2014 when not many coaches were using it. Or 2015, and he was like, never use that, this and that. And then 2 years later, he gets on a podcast with his ex-fiance. She schools him on insulin, and now he has like all of his clients. If their blood sugar is even like slightly high, he'll have them do Lantus morning and night. Yeah.
Not many though. Not many I use.
Oh, he'll work them up. Like, I don't think he realizes. Like, I at least don't think. Like, I don't think he realizes that on something like Lantus, like if somebody has higher blood sugars in the morning, I think there's other issues that you could fix, like maybe dropping the carbs.
Absolutely. And exactly.
Bed. But what he does is he just keeps like needing to add food and add insulin.
It's like your engine's leaking and you put a like Band-Aid on it or something.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not solving the problem.
Instead of reducing carbohydrates, because the guy's probably not processing everything, he just raises the insulin. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know.
That's a very good point. Well, guys, listen, I think we did we'll keep this one as a coach call one and try to do another one within like 5 to 7 days if you guys are free to do questions, because I have a lot of questions also.
Yeah, well, we can do a few more questions.
We could do a couple more?
Yeah.
All right. One guy, he's having...
Milos things?
You want to talk about
Regan.
Kuwait? You want to talk about Kuwait?
Yeah, I mean, about Kuwait, yeah. All I wanted to say was just that, so I heard like Trigili saying like Badr didn't earn his money, or his family just got it from like oil or whatever, so he doesn't value the money as much, so they just throw it out there. And while I understand this is true about some Saudis, some Kuwaitis that are sheikhs, like princes, very few of them, by the way, most of the princes in Kuwait are not very rich. This is true about Abu Dhabi, my neighboring emirate. There you can find people, I'm telling you, you don't know how much money they have. They make Bill Gates and Steve Jobs look like a joke. But in Kuwait, while they have some natural resources, it's not really distributed to the populace. How it affects you really is you don't get taxed as much. The government can run on the stuff like that. But a lot of Kuwaitis are poor. And the Kuwaitis that I know personally, and I know some of the richest Kuwaitis in the world, like Badr is from a very well-known family, they're businessmen. Badr's father was a businessman. These families, their father, grandfather were businessmen. For example, in Dubai, we only had enough oil to sell oil for about 4 years. Everyone thinks Dubai is an oil-rich state. Nah, my grandfather and other people's grandfathers built the city on their backs with business. They were entrepreneurs. My grandfather was a gold smuggler. He smuggled gold into India. A lot of the Kuwaitis used to be gold smugglers with my grandfather. That's how they made their money, not from oil. This is even before oil. So I just wanted to point out, not all Arabs are some like... You just live off oil or whatever, and not every country. So like if you pick on one country, just know what the people are like in that country. You know what I mean? Like in Qatar has they live off natural resources. You know what I mean? Anyway, I just want to defend.
He made it sound like he was like kidnapped almost though. That was just like.
That's the other thing I wanted to comment on. Why are they complaining about being kidnapped? These guys pay you for your drugs. They give you a place to stay. You ask to come.
Gourmet food right to your door. Gourmet food.
They make it sound like they're in Iran during the when they got, those Americans got kidnapped in the 80s in Iran. What was that crisis called? They make it sound like that's happening in Kuwait. Like it's not a crisis, bro. These people invited you over. You know what I mean? It's not like it's pretty funny. But anyway,
it just wasn't built for it. I don't think.
Yeah, but Breon or Brandon was, and look how that guy.
Yeah, you gotta be. That would be heaven if I was right. Boston, early 20s.
Hell yeah, man! If I was single with nothing to do, I'd love that shit.
Yeah.
In your early 20s, right? You'd be.
Yeah.
I know. I agree. I would have been there too, but I have no genetics, so it would have been useless. So, hey guys,
once you have kids, though, go ahead.
Yeah, can I ask you guys something? Actually, this is relevant because there's the Toronto Pro soon, right?
Yeah.
And in the Toronto Pro, I think the top people, I think Regan is going, but he's not listed. But then there's Quinton.
Regan's on vacation. There's no way he's doing it.
Regan's on vacation?
He's been vacationing in fucking Mexico or some shit.
Oh, is he really? So Quinton, there's a guy they call him Quinton Beastwood or something like that.
Yes.
Who has like crazy genetics from Canada, right?
Crazy genetics.
So it's between him and I think another guy called Stanimal. Those are the well-known people. I wanted to ask you guys about Stanimal because this is the first time I came across him. I respect him very heavily because of the way he defended his friend Sean Roden and how sad he was. And it shows me like, this is like caring person and so on. And this is not disrespectful. But when I saw him, his physique, I was thinking, I feel like I have bad genetics. If I like tried to bodybuild after... Oh, you know what I'm talking about, Armon? Do you see the same thing?
Yeah. He started in men's physique and I think he's really, really pushed it. So he's not supposed to be that big. Like,
that's what I got.
Yeah, it doesn't look right. And I'm sure he's pushed it pretty hard.
That guy's going to destroy him.
Yeah, he doesn't have a bodybuilding physique to me. He just doesn't have that thickness, 3D. I don't know.
Yeah, he strikes me as like.
His conditioning is not that great too. Guess who he works with?
Who?
Patrick Tuor.
Oh, really?
Oh, Tuor.
That guy's hit or miss, honestly, now. Yeah. He can never claim to be a top. Like, Matt Jansen destroys him.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Destroys him. I mean, he's so inconsistent, even with Ian, if you think about it.
Oh, yeah, no, he's all up and down with all of his guys. I mean, I had a.
Do you know what James Hollingshead said about him? We never talked about this, bro.
Yes, you told me that, and I watched it.
He murdered him. He basically said, I had to watch that shit in detail. He was basically like, before the show, he was like, there's nothing can go wrong. I put all my trust in Patrick Tuor, and I know I have the best coach in the world. He literally said this. So he said, I would have gone second at the Arnold. We'll see what's going to happen now. But all is his trust in Patrick. Then after the show, he says, I made a mistake. I was thinking it more like I should listen to Patrick and maybe not give so much feedback, but reality, it should be more equal. And I realized, basically he said like Patrick's the reason he didn't do well. Because he followed everything Patrick was saying. He says he lost muscle. Burnt muscle. And then also they didn't land the peak. So he apparently says he lost so much muscle that he couldn't compete in a show right after the Olympia. Because he couldn't just fill back up. So
Stanimal's the same way. If the Stanimal guy wants to do well, he needs to be shredded. And he was nowhere near shredded his last show.
So what career does he... I mean, is he just a pro bodybuilder? He has a show or TV show or something like that. Does he work with Jay?
I think he's just pro bodybuilder, right?
Wow, that's interesting. That's crazy. If I had those kind of genetics, I would have become like a coach or something like that. I wouldn't.
Cause he had a full head of hair, and then like within like a year, it was all gone, right?
Yeah, he had a full head of hair in men's physique, classic physique, and then all of a sudden he goes to go pro bodybuilding, and he lost his hair.
He pushed it. That's hard.
All right, let's give some help to Mike.
Leo, I wanted to ask Armon. We forgot to ask him. What would you win on normal guys? Do you pull the growth hormone or do you keep it in?
Call me Armon. You guys always say Armon for some reason.
I say Armon. I'm so sorry, man. I just realized you're Armon when you said your name to the. I was like, why am I calling him Armon? I have Persian friends called Armon. That's why I misunderstood. I thought it was the same name. I'm sorry, brother.
Ask that again, Boston. I was talking shit. Go ahead.
The GH.
When you pull the GH.
Pull it with your guys.
Oh, usually, dude, I film with almost everybody like a week out. I even try myself. Like I have like a super fast metabolism, and I kept it in 1 year. I was a little watery.
Even with the diuretics?
Yeah, I just don't like it all the way through. I think it gives you a little just watery. I just don't like it. I've tried it on a few clients, and on myself, nationals 1 year, I had it cut for 5 days. And the last 2 days I did like 12 IUs a day. And that was the best I looked.
So you did 12 IUs into the show?
Yeah. So I cut it for 5 days. And then I think Thursday, Friday or Saturday or Thursday and Friday, I did like 10 or 12 IUs. Into the show.
With insulin?
No.
What GH were you using? Do you think it depends on the GH as well? Like I wouldn't use a Serostem up to the show.
It was Serostem, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I feel like
sense.
Sizin or Norditropin would have been better.
That makes sense. Serostim is the biggest fucking.
Feels like it looks like insulin water almost. You know,
watery, man. Look at all those AIDS patients. They got a fucking loads of water on them.
Okay, how about you? I want you guys' comment on this. So, do you guys know about this guy called Coach Trevor from Tony Hughes' channel?
Yes, of course.
So
I hung out with him. Remember, I did videos with them.
Oh, did you really? I don't know him, but he says some stuff that's really out there. So this one isn't one of them, but sometimes he says stuff that's out there. I'm like, where did that? He reminds me of like a forum guy. You know, the forum guys in the old days that knew the secrets and stuff like that. Yeah. So anyway, Zyker says, wonder your opinion about Coach Trevor's safest IGF protocol. Because Coach Trevor was saying earlier that IGF can cause cancers randomly and tumors across the body. So he says MGF, which I think is mechanistic growth factor, during the workout, IGF-1, IGF-DES post-workout. He said it's safer than using IGF-LR3 because of shorter half-life, and when used around the workout, the MGF prioritize the muscle cells as opposed to organs and other parts of the body. I think that's true. Yeah. What do you guys think about that? But I don't know what is MGF useful?
These guys complicate the shit so much. Leo, that's one of the experiments. I bought a bunch of MGF before I knew I was in kidney failure, so it's still in my refrigerator. I haven't been able to use it, but it has some good feedback on it. What do you think, Armon?
Dude, I've used.
By the way, he just called you Armand with a D now.
No, Armand. I said Armand.
It went with a D, by the way. I heard that and I caught it, and I want to see. I call you Armand. I'm the only one who does that. So.
So I've used IGF a few times, and my friend back in the day, like when I prepped with Hani, he had some real IGF. It was like off brand or whatever, and I felt like that worked. I used it in the off season. I think he had I liked it, but then after that, I don't think people use real IGF. And then I used a bunch from different sites. I didn't feel it until I got Increlex. This is after I quit bodybuilding.
You got Increlex?
Yeah. So a client got some Increlex.
Wow.
And so Blue, I don't know if you have much experience with people taking that, but no one can get it. So
it's overseas, you can get it easy.
Really? Okay.
It's amazing.
Dude, so I don't have experience with it except this time. So a client got it and he's like, how do you take it? I was like, because it's like, I think 15,000 a bottle without insurance or something like that. So I was taking TRT at the time. I was like 2016. I just got back in the gym and he's like, hey, here's like 3 weeks worth. And I think I did like 20 or 30 micrograms a day. And Bostin, you said, you're like, what are you taking right now? Armand was like, I'm taking TRT and this. You're like, dude, you're loaded up. I was like, dude, I swear to God, I just started this IGF.
I thought so.
Dude, I looked like I was on a full-blown cycle. I just blew up. But as soon as I quit, it went right back down.
Was it incomparable to the other IGFs that you tried? Like totally different?
Yeah.
I thought so, man, because
nothing can touch it.
I've tried like the Chinese IGF ones before, and I feel like they cause like a little, it looks like you have insulin or something. You're a bit fuller. Yeah, but it's not like this life-changing thing that the 90s guys used to say about Increlex.
I don't know. It was nuts. I like literally took it for 2 weeks, and I looked like I was on a full-blown crazy cycle. Everybody's like, dude, what are you? I was like, I'm taking my TRT. They don't know what IGF is, so they're just, But yeah, So I
wonder if Matt has his top guys on that. There's some.
Yeah, he's got the hookup
from those overseas connects. I mean, you can get it overseas. Yeah. It's not that expensive if you go to different countries. But I've talked to so many people that didn't really feel much on it. Maybe it went bad in transit. I don't know.
I think that, and then we got that bottle. We split it between 3 people, and one of the guys, nothing happened to him. He didn't get the fullness or anything. But me and my other buddy, we were just so full and. Yeah.
Blue, have you tried it?
Yeah.
I've never tried it, but I have a few clients that use it. I actually have a guy in Kuwait who's on Increlex right now. And he's freak. Yeah. It's over there getting that type of stuff is like, going to the store and getting candy. I mean, it's very accessible. And I have a couple of guys in the UK that are using it, but I mean, you don't, like Armand was saying, you don't, my one guy in the UK right now, he's on 20 micrograms, and it's the peptide stuff. It's not even comparable. It's a different world, literally.
But But in the inserts, like it says, one of the main side effects is like the skin thickness growth on like the nose. And so you see a lot of the bodybuilders with the, like, I mean, I have a big nose.
It widens.
Like and the forehead,
widens.
like the growth. Yeah. I think Increlex really,
I mean,
does a caveman look thing.
Yeah, just today I was looking at a podcast from Fuad Abiyath in which his sponsored athlete from Britain, Samson Dauda, was there. And my wife walked by and said, "What's this up with this guy's head?" And I looked and I was like, "Oh, you're right." So his head's like here, and he looks like, imagine I shaved my head, but it was still this size. That's how he looked. So his head came out. And I was like, wow, and then I asked my wife, I was like, listen, am I reading too much into this shit? Like, do you ever see people with that big heads that are not bodybuilders? She's like, no, you don't see somebody with a head that you all have huge head. All of these guys have huge heads. So I know something funky is going on there. But I wanted to point out something that Trevor never told you guys. So, I mean, to the audience, steroids also raise IGF-1. Growth hormone raises IGF-1. Even just eating glucine protein, raises IGF-1.
Yeah,
also.
insulin can rise.
Insulin raises IGF-1? Yep, exactly. So a lot of things do. But someone wanted to ask something about a surgery. I wanted to make sure to ask you guys, in case it's soon. Mike Conrad said, I'm having a rotator cuff surgery in a few weeks, obviously hindering my training drastically for at least a few months. I'm cruising on 300 milligrams test and 180 milligrams Mastron E, and will be using BPC 157 and TB 500 to speed recovery. Will that be enough to minimize muscle loss while recovering? Is there anything else I can do? I'm 44 years old, 211 pounds, training hard for a few years since I got back into it. Have you guys had rotator cuff surgery?
Repeat that cycle?
Yeah.
So he's just on 300 milligrams test and 180 Mastron E. And testing.
And then what's
he wants to know is that basically he's having rotator cuff surgery. I've never had rotator cuff, but I had like gynecomastia surgery. So I can comment on like recovering from a surgery that doesn't allow your arm to move much. But he's asking like, is that enough androgens to retain muscle? We don't know how big he is, but he said 211. We don't know how muscular.
Don't you think DECA would help him with the surgery recovery?
I don't think it helps with the recovery. I think it's a false feeling of, I think not false, but I think it's...
give it to burn patients to recover faster, but I don't...
Well, androgens all increase the recovery rate. Yeah.
No, I know, but they specifically prescribe DECA for that.
It's for the inflammation. It helps with the inflammation.
Yeah.
Does it really?
Yeah.
That could be it, but it feels like there's something that it does to the joint, but that doesn't heal it. But when you get the DECA out, the joint's still the same, right? But in the meantime,
I think DECA would, even adding some DECA instead of that Mastron would help him retain more muscle.
Yeah, that's for sure. The Mastron is worthless there.
Yeah,
I did. So I had surgery on my left shoulder. I had two. Mm-hmm. First was AC joint and supraspinatus. He went in, fixed that. He was a surgeon for the Texas Rangers. Oh, so my labrum was partially torn. So I had a surgery. He's like, "Hey, your labrum was partially torn. I didn't fix it because where the tear at, it'll get." So he's thinking of baseball players. They got to get their arm back there so they don't fix their labrums. Mm. He didn't fix them. I'm like, am I going to have a problem with it? He's like, no, you'll be all right. So I had a problem with it. And we had to go back in and fix that. That's what pretty much retired me in 2012, or 11, 12. But he told me to take, DECA, Anavar, and growth hormone. But he was a bodybuilder in college, and he works with all the Texas Rangers.
But I mean, there is some research evidence specifically on Anavar and collagen synthesis.
I didn't take it because I was like, if you're not working out, just don't take anything.
I mean, if you really want to know what will speed up joint recovery, it's Pentosan Polysulfate. Way more than more than BPC potentially, or similarly to BPC, TB500. But what I was going to say is you can train your other arm, and I think that the dose is high enough. Like, for example, for me, when I went off steroids, and I just stayed on 400 milligrams. I stayed on 400 milligrams for like a couple of months. I lost, this was years ago. I almost lost no muscular size. My arms were the same. I had to go off completely, even without training, to lose a lot of muscle. So if you've been training, but right now I haven't been to the gym in 5 weeks. I lost a lot of muscle because the muscle I just gained, I hadn't kept for that long. So I feel like the longer you keep the muscle, if you've kept it for like 2 years or so, I think 300 milligrams can keep you safe.
Look at Dennis James. That guy is trying to lose weight and he can't because of all the muscle he put on.
Yeah, perfect example. But I bet you if he goes completely off and stops training, then it'll happen. But if he trains and takes 200 milligrams, you'd be surprised. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you got to stop the weight.
I hate, Leo, when people build crazy physiques on high drugs and they end up retiring, and then they make a comeback with TRT and blow back up, and they claim that, oh, look what I look like on TRT.
There was a coach that did that, but that died. We don't need to mention his name, but like, remember that coach that used to say he takes very low doses, and you know what I'm talking about, right? He died.
Matt.
Yeah.
Matt Porter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that happened to me, for example. Like, I went back to the gym. I mean, most people didn't see me much, but when they saw me, they said, "Oh, you look much bigger than we thought." But I was only taking 150 to 300 milligrams a week of pre-workout orals. I wasn't even taking a test base. But before, I could never gain muscle that fast. It was just because it's old muscle that I regained.
Were your erections still good?
Yeah, weirdly, I was totally fine. It's so, weird how little. I mean, I even stopped taking HCG for a while. Everything was fine. My body started running on Anadrol, or not Anadrol, but small amounts of pre-workout Anadrol. Anyway, guys,
I just saw that video, Boston's injection, penile injection or whatever. I just saw it the other day. I went to the ER 4 times for that.
Leo, I got to tell you guys, because I mentioned on the other podcast, Leo's going to be very upset with me.
What?
Well, I texted Armon already about it.
What?
I let him have it.
What did he do?
Leo's going to hate me for this shit.
What did you do?
Him.
I fucking IV'd a whole oxy.
Oh my God. You IV'd an oxy?
Dude, I was so lit up.
Oh, I'm looking at Armon, by the way. I'm not looking at Shar. Whoa, bro. That's something you should never do.
I crushed it up with a hammer.
And an oxy, that's better than heroin.
I got the oxy and I put it over a paper, crushed it with a hammer, put it in a cup, mixed it with 3 cc's of water, pulled it out with like a
3 cc's of water?
3 cc's of sink water.
Of sink, that's crazy. By the way, the audience needs to know you do that crap. Please bugger him. He can't use sink water, for God's sake.
Water, mixed it up, pulled it out with an 18 gauge, and then I shot it into an empty GH vial. So then I shot a cc and a half with a 23 gauge IV, and then I was talking to Dave on the phone, EPO Dave, because I was like, Dave, how do I crush this pill?
You used a 23 gauge?
To IV it because of all the particles from the pill.
Oh my God, this kidney.
It would have clogged anything else, Leo.
Your kidney, it would clog your kidney, bro.
So, dude, I was so fucked up. I was about to puke, but like after, and I was like, Leo,
why didn't you text me before that?
You're wrong. I'll never do that again. You remember you were like, once you do it, I won't do it again.
Well, you better never do it.
Like 3 long paragraphs.
I didn't like it.
It's good you sent him a lot of paragraphs because
I'm like, it's all fun and games at first because I was like that. People told me, yeah, don't do that. I was like, I can't get addicted. And then 2 years later, I'm looking in the mirror crying like, I don't even want to live. I can't get off this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing I don't even have a connect really for them to get them that often. But honestly, IVing them, it didn't do any more than the oral. It just fucked me up more.
It's probably because I don't want to give you. Did you throw
Makes
up
you
a lot?
sick at first.
No, yeah, I held it in. I even trained.
Oh my God, you went to train after what?
I drove and trained.
Okay, bro, listen. So like you text me about like transdermal testosterone, but you don't text me before you inject oxycodone up your veins. But you text Armon after it.
I knew you would lecture me not to, and I knew.
Man, well, I could have told you could snort it. I could just tell you some other ways around it. You don't have to do that. I could do. No, that's not what I mean. No, oh my God, no. What I mean to say is with Boston, the way I treat Boston is like, I try not to lecture you so you don't don't feel like self-conscious around me. So I always just try to give you a slightly better option. Like, because I don't know how it feels to IV oxycodone. I've tried heroin myself.
Immediately, like you just get dizzy, like oh shit, like a high.
No, but the thing is, IV heroin, look, from my friends that are heroin addicts, and I've snorted heroin before just to try it twice. And my friends told me, like, once you injected that feeling, or 2 or 3 times, that feeling that you feel is it desensitizes you to the pleasures of life, to the point where you always remember that high. And that's the fuck. So I don't want you to ever feel that. Thank God you don't seem to have felt that.
That didn't happen.
Yeah, thank God. You got away with it.
What do you think about the...
Don't do it again.
Don't do it again, bro. Never do it again.
Bupi.
Huh? What?
The bupafedrin, isn't it called bupafedrin?
That's to get off. That's to get off.
Yeah, no, I know, but that gets you really high too. I've tried it before.
Is he talking about like naloxone?
What's the
Subutex.
Oh, he's talking about Subutex. You know who likes Subutex, Boston?
Who?
Well, I'll tell you later.
Wait, EPO Dave.
No. There's another guy who was a YouTuber who's always on Subutex, actually. But I'll tell you about it later.
And that's the bupafedrin or whatever?
Yeah, so Subutex, it agonizes the receptor and then blocks it at the same time. So it's like
I puked the next day when I did that one.
If you do that long enough, it's like one of the worst withdrawals.
Yeah.
The Subutex as well.
I puked the next day.
Bro, generally just don't use opiates to get high. Like you can use GHB, mushroom.
Yeah, once a week I do take a half of Oxy on leg day because it makes the workout enjoyable.
If you can stick with that, that's okay. But
yeah, it's okay.
That's why I was trying to find Nubane, because I would rather use Nubane instead of the Oxy.
I mean, it's okay, but what if one day, like you usually use it 1 day a week, right? What if one day, God forbid, something really bad happens in your life on the day before or whatever, and you say, hey, maybe I could take that, it'll relieve my tension. And what if you take it and you feel a little bit better? And then next time you have that's how it happens.
There's weeks, Leo, where I don't even use it. I mean, like I go 2-3 weeks without using it sometimes,
What happens is something tragic happens, like a death. Like in my instance, I had like 2 deaths, close ones in court, custody. And then I was like, I'll just do it a couple days to stay numb. Okay, just a couple more. A couple more. Then 4 years down the road and just.
Yeah. Would one Oxy, would you even fill one Oxy at that point?
At that point, are you talking about are these 30 milligram Roxys is what he's talking about?
15 meg Oxys.
Oh.
I hope, a lot of those are Fent too, dude. You got to be, I don't know who.
Yeah.
This is prescription.
Okay, be careful because of. But hey, Armon, those ones, they can't be snorted, right? Because the brand changed it such that you can't you can't smoke it, right? Or they're still smokable?
The 30s, yeah, they still make the blue 30s, and yeah, you can still do whatever with those.
I shouldn't have mentioned that because this guy's gonna.
You can smoke them now?
No, you can't smoke them. You can't smoke them. It's not possible. But listen, please, Boston, please, let's do an intervention before you even get started. Opiates, the most dangerous thing on earth. Like the one thing I'm lucky about Boston in my life, I never got addicted to opiates. But anyway, guys, I'll let you guys be for now. Blue has not said a word in half an hour.
Hey, I'm listening to. I'm just shocked. Boston would never text me and tell me he was injecting Oxycontin. He knows I would text him back immediately and
say. That's why I didn't text Leo either. But I texted Armon right after because I knew he's done it before.
Yeah, that's good actually to text him to make sure that you didn't hurt yourself further. But please don't.
Yeah, I was stressed out.
Seriously, bro. There's so many drugs to try. There's no reason to do opiates. Because
for the audience, anybody that, dude, 4 or 5 years on hardcore opiates, that pain coming off is worse than any surgery pain, any chronic pain that you could ever have. It's not,
and more important, Armon, please tell them also the fact that once you go through that, you never forget how pleasurable it was. So it screws with your head all the time. Like I know heroin addicts been clean 25 years. If they see some tar somewhere on somebody, the second they see it, I gotta get out of here. It's on my head, It's the bug gets. I'm
like 7 months going. I bad dreams all the time, waking up crying, think I did it in my dreams, and and then. Oh
yeah, that's a common one. You wake up thinking you got high in the dream, right? Mm-hmm. And that can really trigger you too the next day. Yeah. So it's a mental obsession that develops, especially with heroin or injectable meth. So be careful, guys. Yeah. And Boston, the heroin is just the same thing as the thing you inject.
Really, it's the same thing?
Heroin is not less purified. They're almost the same thing. They're both agonists of the mu opioid receptor.
Oxy is stronger. Yeah, Oxy is strong.
I was about to say it's stronger, right?
Yeah, if a dope addict can get Oxy, I could get Oxy Dilaudid. I was prescribed it. So yeah, it's any addict that can get that over tar or heroin or whatever, they much prefer the pills. It's just so expensive.
In Texas, is it tar also? It's not China White there?
No, nothing. It all comes. A couple of my friends, one of our mutual friends that we know, Boston. It's all tar here.
Interesting. I saw China White in LA before.
Like I don't even know. Like one of our mutual friends, me and Armon's mutual friends, he was the one that was getting the Nubane prescribed to him. I don't even know how it was prescribed anymore.
Same doc. He was going to the same doc. I sent him to the doctor to get just normal tests and stuff, and I had Nubane, and we had a group of us. We were all using Nubain before our leg workouts, and then he went off, and I, used it, but I had a prescription for it, and then he got a prescription, and then the doctor, he cut us off all at once. He was in some sort of trouble with some other thing, so he couldn't do any sort of prescriptions anymore. So that led to we went to a pain specialist. We asked for Nubain. They're like, no, I can't prescribe that, but here's Dilaudid, 100 times stronger.
Wow.
No problem. Here's Dilaudid.
Yeah, I've tried Dilaudid before once. It's a very powerful drug. Very powerful, very dangerous. By the way, for the audience that we're talking like just as between us, but for the audience to know, if you're younger than us, my biggest piece of advice for you, never use an opiate unless you're in the care of a doctor and you're really in pain. Because that's why the other reason I've never really abused these drugs, because I know one day I'm going to be in a painful illness and I need to be able to relieve the pain and not start with a tolerance to the thing. You know what I mean? And opioid receptors, they downregulate as a consequence of agonism. So you're always going to chase the magic dragon. They downregulate. That's how they work. Some receptors don't. They upregulate.
A Norco is an oxy, right?
No.
I just realized that Norcos are opiates. For some reason, I was thinking there's some other thing.
No, they're not.
What's a Norco? Is it an opiate?
That's like a Yeah, that's like a hydrocodone.
Okay, Armon, can you tell us one more thing? Though this one I'm curious about. Have you ever tried codeine cough syrup? And why do rappers like that so much more than opiates and shit like that? I've tried it before, like but not enough to know, and I'm not really into opiates.
That's like 1/10 as strong as, that's like 1/50 as strong as an oxy. It's just like their little thing. They like to,
because cool, it's light. They don't get sick from it.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, they're not. It's not. That's not hardcore.
Interesting. Okay, I didn't realize that.
But,
I tried it. I tried it once because of the rappers. I was like, this is like 10 years ago. I was like, I want to see what this thing does. So I got myself 2 cups. And I got myself like a Sprite or whatever, and I put it in there. And I remember I was watching TV. This was probably the first time I tried an opiate. And I drank a little bit of it, and then I was like watching TV, and then suddenly I realized I hadn't moved for like 45 minutes. And I was like,
that's the promethazine in it that makes you all sleepy.
Yeah, I hadn't moved. I just like froze down. It was very interesting. I was so relaxed. And then I like went to sleep.
Yeah.
Then my girlfriend at the time was like watching me while I was sleeping. She just thought I was gonna like something would like I OD'd or something. I was like, no, I'm just sleepy. I just had 2 sips, but it was very. People shouldn't use that either. Just for people to know, those create withdrawals as well.
Those are like $500 go from the street now. A bottle, $500 a bottle of that stuff.
Is tramadol considered an opiate?
It is an opiate. But it's an unusual opiate. It agonizes.
It doesn't really make you that high feeling, though.
No, it's a weak opiate with a serotonergic effect as well.
Okay.
So that's what.
It's funny. Dan Duchesne did an article, how to come off Nubain with tramadol. Like, look it up.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. Dan was way ahead of his time,
Yeah. And I did it, and it worked. It did work for Nubain.
Really? All right, guys. I'll let you be. I got to go check out my wife.
Sounds good.
See you guys soon in a few days.
I'll see you all.
Yeah.
All right, brother. See you soon.